What is one thing that we've all got in common in our four-wheel drives? Our tyres. We all need to have a decent set of tyres to help get us to our place, our destination, and carry us along our journey. I want to share with you my review of my BF Goodrich KO2s. I've had these on for about 65,000 kilometres now. So I think it's time to give a really good review and my feelings on what these tyres are like and if they were worth the money. Over the years of four-wheel driving, I've used and own a variety of different brands of tyres. I've come to the conclusion that you actually need a quality tyre, because it's the quality tyre and the quality brand that puts the time, the money and the research into making a strong tyre. A strong tyre for me means they're really puncture resistant, they wear for a long time, really get good mileage out of them, and they're not too noisy, although noise isn't a super factor depending on what kind of tread pattern you're looking for. If you're looking for a mud tyre, then expect noise. Now, this was only the second type of all-terrain tyre I have used. The reasons why I chose the BF Goodrich to start with is when I first bought my Triton, the Triton actually came with a set of BF Goodrich KOs. So the Series 1 model of the KO2 that we've now got now. They are a little bit different to the KO2. The main difference being this more aggressive sidewall knob setup. Now, I paid for these tyres out of my own pocket, so I'm not getting paid for this. So it's totally unbiased. Now, I've used, as I said before, I've used cheaper brands, so less well-known brands, and I've found that they just don't handle it. Now, I don't go super aggressive four-wheel driving, but I have found them to be a cheaper brand with a weaker construction, just not handle the rigours of just occasional four-wheel driving or everyday four-wheel driving. So I really found it important, and I suppose the brands, the well-known brands, the bigger brands who have spent the money on R&D, I've found have a stronger tyre carcass and better tyre life. Now, as I said before, when I bought the Triton, it came with a set of original KOs, BF Goodrich KOs, all-terrain tyres. Now, I was pretty happy with the way they had performed. I was due for some tyres. They had done, well, I think I'd done about 50,000 Ks in them, and I think they'd done probably 40 or 50,000 Ks themselves. So they'd worn really well. They weren't too noisy, especially at the end of their life. So I thought, well, I'll give them another go, and I was going to order and buy the KOs themselves. However, at that time, BF Goodrich had made the switch from KOs to KO2 and bought out this tyre. This was something that I looked at and I actually kind of enjoyed, because I didn't want a full-blown mud tyre, but I did like the fact that the KO2 had these stronger side knobs, and that for me was probably the big seller, because from all reports it was the same tyre carcass. They had just improved the side knobs. So tyre life was something that for me is quite important. I spend a lot of time commuting on blacktop, and then after hours and on weekends and time off work, I like to get out and explore, get off the beaten track. So a full-blown mud tyre was probably really out of the equation. I looked for wear. I wanted something that was going to give me good mileage, and well, I must say, so far, after about 60 or 65,000 Ks, I can't exactly remember how long they've been on the car, about 2.5 years, The tyres are wearing great. I think they've still got probably 8 mil of tread left on them, so quite a bit of tread left. Noise. When I first put these KO2s on the vehicle, there was no noise. Now, they are not a mud terrain, so they're not generally going to be too noisy. Obviously not as quiet as a highway terrain, but highway terrain is out of the question because they are not a strong carcass. They're not designed to be taken off road. Now, the noise when I first put them on was fantastic. I was really quite happy. I am starting to hear a little bit of noise now, and that is more because they are wearing down. They've done, 60, 65,000 Ks, could even be a little bit more than that. So they are wearing quite well, but they're not that noisy. Even though I say they're starting to develop a bit noise, they're not that noisy. So they've still got quite a bit of time left in them. I can probably get another 12 months out of these tyres comfortably before I really need to look at getting another set of tyres. One thing I noticed after about 6 months of driving, and it really helped support my idea that this was a good tyre choice, was up at Laura in northern Queensland. We run into the army who was stopped there for fueling, and I did notice a lot of their vehicles were actually running all of the BF Goodrich KO2s. So for me, that put my mind at ease that I had made a good choice. Now, I don't know whether the army had done a deal with BF Goodrich and were testing the tyres out, or whether the army had chosen those tyres because they were a quality tyre. What it did tell me though is that my choices were justified for the armed forces to even consider using that tyre, that exact same brand, that exact same type of tyre. It reinforced my decisions that I'd made the right choices. Let's talk about tyre performance in various conditions that I've had them in. So on the bitumen, they handle quite nicely. They provide a nice amount of grip. After all, they are a four-wheel drive tyre, so they're a little bit noisier than a highway tyre, but they're not very noisy, not noisy at all in my opinion. So they handle that in the dry and the wet. They provide quite a nice amount of grip. I can't say that I've felt slippery on the road or any possible loss of control because of the tyres. So I do feel that they handle all the various road conditions on the bitumen quite nicely, wet and dry. On dirt, on gravel roads, they handle quite nicely. Loose gravel roads, it can feel a bit loose, but then I feel that that's probably the type of road more than it is the tyre. They seem to do quite well. Mud, they handle reasonably well, not too bad, although they can clog up quite quickly. They don't have the big gaps in between the tread blocks to get rid of the mud as quickly as a mud tyre. However, if you're going to be continually doing mud driving, I would seriously consider looking at a set of mud terrain tyres, and there is a various amount of brands out there. As far as an all-terrain, I think these handle the mud quite well. They do handle the mud better than the original KOs. They give better grip, especially if there's a bit of, you're driving up a hill with some ruts in it. Those side knobs definitely give you a lot more grip on the edge of a rut to help you get up that hill. Sand, now I don't have a lot of sand around where I generally drive and travel, although I have done a little bit of sand driving in them. They go all right. Now, probably more due to my inexperience with sand is where my troubles came up, not necessarily the tyres, and actually the Triton I think also limited the success on sand. but I think they handled it quite well. They spread out, increased the tyre, deflating the tyre nicely. They handled quite nicely in the sand. I never felt that the tyre was going to let me down. I think even in the sand, they were quite a nice tyre. You know, driving on the hard packed sand of some of the beaches up north was quite good. Felt plenty of grip and never felt uneasy. And I still thought, or still felt, that I had a chance to get out of soft sand as well on some of the sand dunes. So I don't think it was necessarily the tyres that got me held up. I think it was more my own abilities and the physical limitations of the Triton. Would I buy these tyres again? Absolutely I would. They're strong. I've thrown a lot at them and they've survived stuff that other tyres haven't, and some bigger name brands. So I'm quite happy with that. They've worn well. I still think I can get quite a bit more life left out of them. They're not too noisy, so I think that's something that's quite nice as well. And I feel a lot of confidence through the car, through the steering wheel and braking. So they seem like a really nice all-rounder tyre for me. If you're interested in some more gear reviews that I personally use, then go and check out one of these videos down here and be sure to go and check them out. I'll see you then.